So I think that's most of the Micah questions. So I'm going to go just jump into some of the other questions that people asked, which were great. The first one, what did I miss most while I was hiking? Well, definitely my husband and my son. There's no question in my mind about that. But, you know, I was just so joyful to be out there that I didn't really miss a lot about, you know, normal life. You know, I kind of joke and say I missed having seltzer water because I always have seltzer water. I love seltzer water. You can't get that from a stream. And my electric toothbrush, because I certainly wasn't going to carry that. I just had a regular toothbrush. But, you know, in terms of missing stuff, it's really just my family that I missed most. And of course, you know, the food, eating my home-cooked food or Oliver's home-cooked food or my husband makes, you know, delicious things like homemade zucchini bread, and he bakes his own bread, and he makes his own granola, which is delicious, and all sorts of other wonderful things. So sure, I missed all that, but I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, and so I was just so happy to be doing that. Whoops, my camera is sliding. Sorry. So there we go. Any post-hike blues? No, I've had no post-hike blues because, you know, it was a great experience. It was time to graduate. The days were getting shorter. The nights were getting colder. It was time to get off trail, and the timing was great. You know, to finish September 11th was wonderful timing. So no, I've had no post-hike blues. I'm glad that I've had these few weeks to acclimate, as opposed to jumping right back into work, which I'm going, you know, to do in a couple of weeks. Yeah, there was just plenty of things to do around the home. Again, I took, you know, a little trip to New Hampshire, and my husband and I are going to go back to New Hampshire and do some more hiking this weekend and maybe next weekend. So no post-hike blues. I know it's very common, but I came back to a life and a home and a family that I love. So no blues for me. Paper Mac, you asked me if Strider finished. I don't know. Last I saw Strider was in New York. Actually, he was crossing over from New Jersey to New York, and so was I. And we chatted for a while. He looked good. Thin. He was very thin. He had lost quite a bit of weight. But he seemed to be fine, so I don't know if he finished. I know he had a fall prior to that when you both you and I saw him. But he had recovered fine from that and was back on trail because I saw him in New York. So I don't know if he finished. And so Strider, if you're watching this, let us know if you finished or not. We're wondering how you're doing. Let's see. Did I ever think I might not make it? Somebody wrote, you were dialed in and looked like you were locked to finish. I never thought I wouldn't make it. This is the truth. The only way I would not make it is if I got injured or, God forbid, there was a family emergency that I needed to come home to. You know, those obviously would be priorities. So I never thought I wouldn't finish. I was very prepared for this hike. I did a lot of research beforehand. I did a lot of backpacking beforehand. I did some multi-day hikes. Some were a week long, some were 4 days long. Did a lot of day hiking and kept myself in really good shape. I like to exercise anyway, so that's not difficult. So I never felt that I wouldn't finish. And I was grateful that I was able to finish. Okay. Will I do another long hike? Will I take Micah or a different dog? I don't know. Will I do another long hike? Probably. You know, there's the PCT, there's the CDT, There's the Colorado Trail. There's the, those trails. Certainly, domestically, I certainly would love to take Micah with me, depending upon when I do them and how old he is and whether he's still able to do them. I'd love to do El Camino from one end to the other. There's so many ways you can do it. You can do it, from east to west. You can do it from south to north. You can do it from Portugal to France. So, I don't know. The Camino has always been on my bucket list. So, we'll see what's up next. Right now, it's get acclimated to home, get back to work, and enjoy seeing my friends and family. What brand of backpack and tent did I use? My backpack was a ULA Circuit. Loved it. Worked great for me, except for the broken buckle. That was a little annoying. But that got all sorted out. My tent, I started with a one-person Big Agnes Copper Spur tent, which I loved. But in Virginia, the weirdest thing happened. The top pole started to disintegrate. It didn't even crack. It just the ends just started to disintegrate. I had never seen that before. And the tent was not that old. It was less than a year old. So it was still under warranty, yay, from REI. So when I got to Marion, Virginia, so I had about 2 days. I had to finagle how to use that tent. And at the time, No Rush Elder was with me. Thank you, No Rush Elder, who helped me finagle those poles so I can at least get a couple of nights sleeping in it. So anyway, we rigged something together so that I could use that tent. And while I was on trail, I called the outfitter in Marion, Virginia, which was going to be my next stop. And he had a Big Agnes Tiger Wall one-person tent, which is the lighter version of the Copper Spur. And I said, okay, hold it for me. I had no experience with this tent. I didn't know if I would like it. Turned out I loved it. It was lighter. It was easier to set up. Yes, the vestibule was a little bit smaller, but it worked fine for me. And it was great. I did have a little problem with it about 200 miles in. One of the little connectors on one of the sides broke, but I was able to use a stake and it wasn't a big deal. I'll probably contact the company at some point and ask for a replacement part. But the Tiger Wall tent worked very well for me. And just to also say, I had both of these tents are double wall tents, which work better for me and Micah. I think last summer I backpacked with a single wall tent, and I'm not going to mention the name of the tent, pretty high-end single wall tent. And by the end of the summer, I was so tired of getting wet inside my tent because of the condensation that occurred, because you have two creatures breathing. Maybe with one person it would be fine, but with two creatures, the dog and myself, breathing in a single wall tent, it just caused too much condensation. So that's why I decided to use a double wall tent for my through hike, and no regrets. Sure, it's a little bit heavier than a single wall tent, but loved it. Stayed dry, kept me warm. It was a great tent. So I would recommend, for me, always a double wall tent, especially if you're hiking with a dog who's breathing along with you. I was so joyful on the trail, somebody says. Did you have any private hard moments? No, my joy was very legit. I was very happy to be hiking. Sure, there were moments when I was cold and saying, okay, I definitely need to stay in a hostel tonight. I got to get off trail. I got to get warm. I got to get laundry. I got to take a shower. But those weren't hard moments. Those were just like, this is what needs to happen. So no, I didn't have any hard moments. I was really, really happy to be on trail. There were days where I was deliriously tired. Definitely some days where I was deliriously tired. And one that sticks out was coming down Madison. Coming down Madison, descending off of the presidential range and getting to Osgood tent site campground that night. I don't think I got there till 7 o'clock, and the last 2 miles I was in deep prayer because I was deliriously tired, and I just had to get to that tent site because there was nowhere to stealth camp. So I didn't have any hard moments. As soon as I got there, a couple of friends that I've been hiking with were there. They greeted me. They saved me a spot on a platform. So life was good. So no, I didn't have any terribly hard moments. How long have I been thinking about hiking the Appalachian Trail? That's an excellent question. Probably 7 years, because I've been backpacking in the White Mountains for a long time and have come upon other thru hikers while I've been hiking and would ask them tons of questions, and thought, man, that would be really cool. So I would say probably close to 7 years. And then the last 3 years really dove into doing the research and reading books about it and learning more about the Appalachian Trail so that I was very prepared when it was my time to go. It was good to see Smack Dad and Rage. Was it easier hiking with someone or alone? Well, let me talk about Smack Dad and Rage a little bit. Wonderful people. We met... we first met in northern Vermont, but we really hadn't developed sort of a relationship yet. It wasn't until southern New Hampshire that we started to actually hike together. They are a married couple. They live in Savannah, Georgia now. They are originally from Chicago and then moved to California and now are living in Savannah, Georgia. Work brought them to different places. They were high school sweethearts, and it was really fun to hike with them. So I would say the last 5 weeks we hiked together, and it worked out great. Smack Dad was very helpful with helping Micah through the notch, and even on I'm blanking right now. It'll come to me. Couldn't think of the Wildcats. Even on the Wildcats, there were some very, very steep sections that Micah needed boosts. And it's always good to have somebody on the other side when you boost up an animal, to have somebody on the other side just to make sure, the boost is complete. So we were able to work together to make that happen. So Smack Dad was great. Rage was wonderful. Great companions to hike with. And actually, this was Rage's second time doing the AT. She had done it with her brother in 2021. And this was Smack Dad's first time doing it with her as his retirement started. So they're both retired, and he's recently retired. So that's how he chose to start his retirement. Was it easier hiking with someone or alone? I don't know what that means by easier. I enjoy both. I enjoy hiking alone. I love the solitude. I also enjoyed their company. The way it would usually work is we would plan to meet somewhere. We'd say, okay, we're going to meet on so-and-so mountain for lunch, because they would take off in the morning, and I would be filming, and I'd be taking pictures, and I didn't want them to have to wait for me. So we would just meet on top of some mountain for lunch. We'd stop, have lunch, and then we would continue and say, okay, we're going to meet at so-and-so shelter or so-and-so campground. And if we changed those plans, we would stop and meet and talk about it. But for the most part, for the last 5 weeks, we stuck together, which was great. So I like it both. I love hiking with people. I also like, being solo. So it's all good. It's all good. So I mentioned what state they were in, and will I see them again? I hope so. We've been communicating, we've been talking, and I've told them they have to come to New England and hike some of the whites with me when they can get up here. So I hope to see them again. I'm going to answer a few more questions, and then I think we'll take a break, and I'll do the rest another time. Did I lose weight, and was it difficult to eat enough? Yes and yes. I started, I weigh normally about 118, 120 pounds, which is a normal weight for me. It's a good weight for me. It's a normal BMI. I bottomed out at 107. So there was a time where I got down to 107. In fact, Rage was the one who said, get on that scale, you're looking really thin. So I did, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm 107. I didn't feel badly, so the loss of weight didn't make me weak, made me lighter, which was probably easier for me to hike. Did I have trouble eating enough? I did. Everything people say about hiker hunger is true. Especially someone like me. I have a very fast metabolism. I always have had a very fast metabolism. So, I'm a 3 meal a day person. I always have been. So, I would, and there was another question about what I would eat. I would eat, at first I was just eating 1 packet of oatmeal in the morning with nuts and raisins. I increased that to 2. So I was doing that, and then 2 hours later, I would eat a high-protein bar, and then I would eat lunch, which was always my tuna packet, and roll up, along with some nuts, some trail mix as well. If I had a snack or cookies with me, I would try to have a little treat at that point. And then for dinner would always be, then another 2 hours, I would eat another bar, some kind of a Cliff Bar or some kind of a high-protein bar. And then for dinner, I would always have my ramen noodles with peanut butter, was my staple, and then a freeze-dried meal. At first, I was only eating single-serving freeze-dried meal, and everybody said, oh, well, you'll eat the two, serving meals. Well, that was true. I eventually ate the 2 serving meals, not because I really felt I needed to eat it. I felt like I should eat it because my weight was getting so low. And so I would kind of sometimes force myself to eat a 2 serving meal. It just was a lot of food for me to eat in one sitting. But I did. I forced myself. The beginning of the through hike, everything they say about not having an appetite was absolutely true. I did not have an appetite at the beginning of my through hike. But that usually lasts much longer for most people. That only lasted about a week for me. So after that, I was definitely developing an appetite. And sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night really hungry. And that's not good, because my food was usually up in a tree, hanging from a bear cable, or in a bear box, and I didn't want to get out of my tent, because that time of year it's cold. So I would just deal with it. And then in the morning, I would try to eat more. So when I got to town, I tried to eat more. I tried to eat as much as I could. But again, there's just so much you can eat. And there's also just so much you can carry. You don't want your food bag to weigh more than 10 pounds. And when I have a full resupply, 5 days of food, my food bag weighed about 10 pounds. And that's the most. Plus, Micah would only carry 10% of his body weight. I would only allow him to carry 10% of his body weight. So if we had more food than 10% of his body weight, which usually amounted to about 3.5, 4 days of food, I would carry the rest. So you could see that it was easy to lose weight. Plus, you're exercising, you're doing low exercise, you're doing fat burning exercise. That's what you're doing when you hike the Appalachian Trail, and you're sweating. I was sweating profusely. I was drinking a ton of water and using electrolytes, but you're just going to lose weight. It's something that's difficult to avoid. But I did get strong. I mean, I felt very strong, and I didn't feel weak. So it was okay. And I'm sure the weight's coming back. I haven't weighed myself recently, but I'm not exercising 9 hours a day, so I'm sure the weight is coming back.